Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is my first FitLight webinar. It's called Set It and Forget It, an easy guide to the FitLight app. Today, I'll be taking you guys through the new FitLight app that we launched in March this year. For those who do not know who I am Rob Bouw. I'm the Director of Sales for FitLight. I've been doing this for quite some years. Many of you will probably know me. I had video calls with you. I took you through some programming, but today is going to be the first webinar where I'm going to discuss the entire app, or at least the majority of it. We have a full hour. I'm going to try to discuss as much as possible. Please note that this will be recorded. So if at any moment during the presentation, you think you want to hear something back, you do not have to ask a question. At a later moment, we will be putting this online, and you can always look back at the recording whenever you want. We will also be chopping it up in little portions, so it's easy for you to look back at. That's one part. At the end, we do hope that we still have time for a questionnaire, so you guys can ask questions if there's something that I'm not mentioning, or if you have specific questions about specific parts that I am presenting, please feel free to reach out. Online is also my colleague, Shani. Thank you very much for helping me out today. She will be answering a lot of questions already. Again, at the end, there will be hopefully time for some Q&A, and if it's possible, I'll answer all your questions. If not, after the webinar, a questionnaire will be sent to all of you, to all of those who registered, and we would love to hear your feedback to see how we've done. First of all, to see if you have any more questions for us that we can answer at a later moment. And we'll probably ask you to, if you guys have any interest for another webinar. All right, I'm ready to go. I hope you guys are. So today it's going to be Set It and Forget It, an easy guide to the FitLight app. What we'll do is I'm going to show you some videos on how the app works. I hope you guys have the app right there with you. I hope you have some lights with you. What I'll do is I'll let you know, or I'll discuss how you can program the lights, how you can set up the lights, how you can do some preloaded exercises and whatnot. So my suggestion would be that we start right away. So first of all, let's see. The lights. As you know, the FitLights are very durable. As you can see, you can jump and hit the lights as hard as you want. Each light has a proximity sensor that's right in the middle and an impact sensor. So whenever the light is activated, you can get data from it by deactivating it by either impact or proximity. I'll show you later how you can set those two sensors. Each light has two rings of LEDs, the outer ring and the center ring, that can also be programmed separately. And that is something that I will be discussing later today as well. On the back of the light, each light has a Velcro lock. Each system comes with a bag of Velcro pads that allow you to attach the lights to almost any surface already. And if you press and turn, the Velcro lock comes off. And then this little mechanism allows you to clip the lights onto any accessories that we have, such as suction cups, magnets, clips for on poles, or as you see here, the tripods. All right, so we have two types of lights. One light that is standard, as you see in the picture in the presentation, or we have the lights with a DC jack plug that's right here. The capabilities of the lights, the features of the lights are exactly the same. The only difference is the way the lights charge. As you see in the picture, we have a hard shell case that you can add to your system, or the standard system can come in a carrying bag like this. So you really have two options. All right. Before we start, you always have to charge the lights. The lights are always on. That means that when you fully charge the lights now, and you come back to, and you unplug the lights and you come back tomorrow, it could be that the lights already lost somewhat of a charge. You can still use them, but you won't be able to use them as long as you would otherwise when they're fully charged. So my recommendation would always be just plug in the lights like you would do with your mobile phone. You can easily charge them overnight, no worries there. And when you come back tomorrow, unplug them, start using them. And when you're done, you just plug them back in. Now, what does that look like? Oh. So the charging part, the lights go from red to yellow or orange to green. Red means that they have 5% or less of a charge. Yellow or orange means that they're anywhere between 5% and 95%. And green means that they're almost or fully charged. And when I say yellow or orange, the difference between that is that the lights usually have an orange color when they're charging, except for one light, and that is what we call the Wi-Fi light. Any new system that came with the application that we're discussing right now, the FitLight app, has one light that on the outside is exactly the same as all the other lights, but on the inside, it has a Wi-Fi module. What does that mean? So each light communicates through radio frequency, except for one light, because your mobile device, whether that is a phone or a tablet, doesn't have a radio frequency transmitter. So we created one light that is called a Wi-Fi light that has that Wi-Fi technology that will connect to your device and will communicate with all the other lights in your setup. The Wi-Fi light will show a yellow color when it's charging. The other lights will show an orange color. The yellow color is also a good way to determine which light is your Wi-Fi light. Don't worry, the light might blink in the beginning. The light might even beep when it's connected. No worries, that's just to let you know I'm the Wi-Fi light and you will need me in order to operate the system. Also, the Wi-Fi light might take a bit longer to charge compared to the other lights. The good part is that when it's fully charged, it will also last longer. All right. Let's go to the app. So we're very happy and very proud that since March, we've launched the FitLight app. As maybe some of you know, we used to have the big old tablet controllers that came with the FitLight Trainer and with the FitLight Junior. We got rid of those tablet controllers and now we have a FitLight app. The FitLight app can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the iOS Store onto any Android or Apple device that you already have. Again, the app uses Wi-Fi technology to communicate with the Wi-Fi light. So don't worry, there's no internet needed, no internet data needed. You do not need an internet subscription. You can easily use the lights outdoors. You just need the Wi-Fi technology that all of your mobile devices already have. All right, now what does that look like? This is the home screen. For this recording, I used an iPad. If you, for example, would use an Android phone, the home screen, the resolution might look a bit different, but in the end, all the fields are exactly the same. And let's go through the home screen of the FitLight app and what it looks like and what you can do with it. All right, so first, on top, you see two fields, Quick Start and Create New. And let me see if I can get a laser pointer out there. I think I can. So here is the Quick Start, where you can easily set up the lights very fast and do a quick reaction training, where you can set it to time or to hits. We'll go through that later. And if you want to create your own exercises that are more advanced, you can hit the right top where it says Create New. The second part is all your recent used protocols, drills, exercises, what you will. So whenever you do an exercise, when you're done, it will show here in your recent exercises. If you hit this little arrow, it will collapse and you won't see your recent used drills anymore, so you have more room for the other exercises. As you see here, there's a field that says My Exercises. So whenever you create a new exercise on the right top, you do that once, you give it a name, and it will go in your own personal folder where it says My Exercises. And we'll go through those steps later on in this webinar. Now, whenever you install the app already comes with preloaded exercises, over 30 in total, and each group or each folder, if you will, has several exercises preloaded in here. And as you see, we have athletic training, basketball, cognitive, football, general fitness, etc., etc. You can actually create your own folders right here in the settings, and then you can add your own exercises to a specific folder. For example, you could do women's basketball. You could, if you have your own exercise lab, you could give your own name, you can put in, or you can create your own logo, etc., etc. All right, the last part, very important, is the toolbar. The toolbar gives you your home button. So wherever you are in the app, if you press the home button, you will go back to this home screen. The status, where it gives an exclamation mark right here, shows you the status of the lights that are connected or not connected to your device, and the user icon will direct you to your user's database, and the settings, obviously, to the settings. And we'll start with that last field, the settings. All right, so what does it look like? In order to change the different settings of your FitLight app, here, if you go to the settings on the right bottom, let me pause this for a second. The first option you see is LED brightness. So if you set the LED brightness to low, the lights will illuminate on a low brightness. If you use the lights indoors, low will probably be more than sufficient for you to properly see the lights. If you're going to use the lights outdoors or maybe further away indoors, then you might want to set it to medium or to high. Also, if you set them to low or to medium, the battery won't die down as fast as they would if you use a high brightness. Be careful if you have lights in front of you on a wall. You might want to set it a bit lower because it might be too much to look at for you. It's like looking directly into the sun. If you blink afterwards, you'll still see it. So you might want to be careful with that. If you're going to use the lights outdoors, we have a sun filter right here, where, see, that's right here. A sun filter means that if there's a lot of sun outside, then you might want to set the sun filter on so the lights will be less sensitive, so they won't deactivate as fast as they would otherwise. All right, let's go. Oh, let's go one back. Okay, and the setup sensor, that means that once you are going to connect the lights to your device, your phone or your tablet, you'll have, and we'll see that later, you'll have to tap the lights in order to assign them to your app. You can do that by distance, or you can do that by impact. All right, and below that, you'll see the dashboard login. The dashboard login is meant for you to put in your username and password that you chose when you registered your system on our website. Whoever gets a new system will have a serial number, and once you download the app, you'll be prompted to register your system with that serial number, and you have to choose your own username and password. With that username and password, at any given moment, you can log into your own customer portal on our website, where you find manuals, tutorials, sport-specific exercises, where you find frequently asked questions, where you can get tech support, and where you find your online dashboard. You get a lot of feedback in the app, such as number of hits, misses, average reaction time, total time. But in the online dashboard, there's way more data, where you see stats, graphics, where you can compare your own data to what you've done last week, last month, last year, where you see how a team is doing, where you see how somebody within a team is doing, et cetera, et cetera. That username and password that you chose when you registered your system, you put that in right here, where it says dashboard login. And once you've done that, you hit login, and what will happen then is automatically all your saved data will be uploaded to your own customer portal, and it should say uploaded successfully. There you go. All right. Now let's connect your device to the fit lights. Very important. As we said before, one of your lights is a Wi-Fi light. And how does that work? If you go to the Wi-Fi settings of your device, whether that's a phone or a tablet, again, in this instance, I used an iPad. If you go to the Wi-Fi settings, a whole list of all the Wi-Fi connections that are available will be shown. And one of those Wi-Fi connections will be called FitLight underscore, and then a combination of some numbers and some letters. In this instance, it says FitLight underscore 561, et cetera, et cetera. Once you select that, you'll see that it says no internet connection. Again, no worries. That is what it's supposed to say. So when there's no internet connection, it means there's no internet data being sent back and forth, because you don't need internet for to operate the lights. The only thing you need is to connect to that one Wi-Fi light, and if there's a blue check mark, it means that there's a connection. If you're prompted to put in a password, the password will be 123456789. But that's all in the booklet that will be sent to you once you receive the system. If you do not want to automatically connect to the Wi-Fi light, let's say you stop using the lights, you go away and you come back. If you hit the blue information icon on the right, it's right here, you can choose to not automatically connect to your Wi-Fi light once you stop using it. And then you just have to go through this manually again. All right. Once you connect to your Wi-Fi light, the Wi-Fi light will go from yellow to blue, as you see right here. The light also gives you a beep, just to let you know that it's right there and that it's connecting. Okay, now you've connected to your Wi-Fi light. How do we connect to all the other lights? And again, this is just one-time thing. If you go to the settings on the right bottom, you go to Setup Lights, you create a new setup, and then it's going to search for all the available lights that are in its range. And once you tap the lights, all the lights will light up red. And once you tap them, they'll change color. They'll change to the color purple. And then if you hit OK, you're good to go. If you go to status on the bottom, the second icon, it'll show you. Let's do that again. If you go to the status at the bottom of your toolbar, it will show you the status of the lights that are actually connected. And as you'll see, after once I connected the lights, it will show that the Wi-Fi light is connected, and it will actually show what other lights and how many lights you have connected. Also very important, and we'll see that right now. There you go. We'll see how many lights are charging and how many lights in total. So one Wi-Fi light connected, 4 lights in my setup, 1 is in use, and 3 lights are actually charging. All right. Now let's start by adding a user and a group. What does that mean? You can have different users. You can have as many users of the system if you want to start collecting data. What I did is I created a group for FitLight, and if you go to users, let me see, and users is at the right bottom. Then we're going to create a new group. We're going to type in FitLight, and as you see, I'm not as fast as many other people are. And then we hit OK. Now we have one group with 0 users. But now we still have to add users to that. So when I hit new user, I type in my own name. I can actually take a picture. I can add a different color, and I can also assign them to a group that I just created, as you see me doing right here. I'm going to take a picture. I can choose from any existing picture on my device, or make a selfie, as I did right there. It's terrible. And now we're going to hit save. and I added myself as a user. So now I can start collecting data for myself. All right, let's go to the next slide. Quick start. So now we're going to finally use the lights. What does that look like? As I said, on the right, on the left top, where it says quick start, you can do a quick hand-eye coordination, a quick reaction time, et cetera, et cetera. If you go there, you can add, or you can choose the amount of players. You can choose which lights you want to connect. You can choose, do you want to do that based on time, or do you want to do that based on number of hits? You can select what users you want to use. In this case, I'm going to use myself. And there you go. 1 hit, 2 hits, still 0 misses, doing very well. Average reaction time, 0.9, 0.8, and your total time. Now that was for 1 user. What does it look like for 2 users? Again, go to quick start on the left bottom, simply select 1 extra user on the right, on the left top quick start, and on the right bottom, create an extra user. Select all the lights, again, based on hits. Now I have the 2 users that I put in the app already. I'm going to do 10 hits, hit start, and both users will use the exact same amount of lights. As I said, this is just a random exercise. What does that look like? This would be for 1 user. This is actually willpower. As you see, is very fast. And you can also do that with 2 players at the same time. All right. Now, as we saw in the beginning, the home screen has a lot of preloaded exercises. I'm going to go through one just to show you what it means if you choose one of the preloaded exercises. So again, you're in the home screen, and in this case, we're going to go to the second folder on the left side where it says cognitive. And then you can just swipe to the left and to the right, and you see all the preloaded exercises. In this case, I'm choosing near far. It gives you a little description on what it means if you want to do this exercise, what you have to do, why you have to do it, how many lights you need minimum. So in this case, it says 3 lights. Again, this is minimum. You can easily use this with 8 lights. It'll be harder and therefore maybe even more interesting. It gives you a little bit of instructions on how to set up the lights. And as you see in the little picture, there's 1 light far away and 3 lights in front of this person. This person is actually Nicholas Davenport, one of our brand ambassadors. And what he is doing is he is focusing on the far light. We call that the control light. And then he has to find the matching light, both matching color and matching setting, in the 3 lights that are in front of him, and deactivate it as fast as possible. Let's see what that looks like. Again, you can choose how many lights you want to use. You can set the amount of repeats. You can choose fail on miss or not. What does that mean? Fail on miss means that if you do not deactivate the correct matching light, then all the lights will blink red and the exercise will stop. If you do not check the box, it won't stop. It will just count as a miss, and you can still continue the rest of the exercise. All right, very important is the next step where it says start by light. Start by light means that you can start your own exercises by choosing distance, impact, or traffic light countdown. When you hit start on the application, the time will automatically start running and you have to start deactivating the lights. If you set it by off, there will not be a start by light. If you set it to distance, what that means is that 1 light will go on when you hit start, but nothing else happens. Only when the user deactivates that 1 light, the time will start and you can start collecting data. This is a very good way that if you want to do an exercise yourself, and you have your iPad or your Android phone with you, and you hit start, and you have to put away your tablet, then you can actually start the exercise when you've positioned yourself in front of the lights and when you're ready to go. Because if you wouldn't, there would already be a delay between you pressing start, putting away the device, and actually start deactivating the lights. Now, you can set that first light, that start by light, by distance, impact, and a traffic light countdown. Distance means that one light will go on and you have to deactivate it by distance. And there's different settings. You can set it by far, medium, near, or hold and release. If you set the light to impact, that means that you have to deactivate the light by impact. You can set that to low, medium, or hard. And you can also set the start by light to traffic light countdown. Everybody knows a traffic light. So your first light, when you hit start, will go from red to yellow to green, and then the time will start running. Now, when you're done, you can choose a restart delay, which means that if you want the exercise to restart automatically when you do the traffic light countdown, if you set it to 0 seconds, once you're done, automatically that first light will go from red to yellow to green again, and then it's go. If you set it to 5 seconds, once you're done, it'll take 5 seconds, and then that first light will go from red to yellow to green and then go. Obviously, 10 seconds will be 10 seconds in between, and off, there will be no restart whatsoever. Okay, here you see my results. All right. Now, what does that look like in real life? We just saw Nicholas Davenport, one of our brand ambassadors, and this is how the video actually looks like from the picture, where you see him finding the matching light that he's focusing on very far away, and he's deactivating the light, the matching light close by. And he does that at an insane speed that I'm very jealous of. You can also do it differently. As you see in the bottom, this is Mike Podier from Pinnacle Sports Lab in Florida. He has one light, control light, in front of him. The minute it goes on, he turns around and finds the matching light out of 3 other lights. You can also do that with a ball to add that extra cognitive load to your exercise. It's just a different approach to the same exercise. All right. Now that was a preloaded exercise. Now we're going to create our own. And what are your options? On the right top, again, it says create new, and then it will show you all the different options. So you can choose from basic, where you do a simple random exercise, or a split time test, and we'll see that at a later moment. You can choose cognitive, where you can actually modify one of those exercises that are preloaded in your cognitive folder, as we just saw with near far. You can choose advanced. Advanced is a more in-depth programming where you can program each individual light. And you can actually do a group programming, where you can program multiple exercises after each other sequentially if you want to do, if you don't want to stop in between, and you'll just go through a whole circuit of exercises. All right, what does that look like? If you want to create your own protocols, you'll have several options for basic. Like I just said, is random, timer, or split time, for example. What does it mean? Random, the lights will go on randomly for a certain amount of hits that you set it to. Timer does the exact same thing, except when it's not based on number of hits, but it's based on a number of seconds. So instead of saying you have to deactivate, let's say 20 lights as fast as possible, now you have maybe 30 seconds to deactivate as many lights as possible. And the split time test allows you to measure your time on each part of a track. Let's say you want to do a 40-yard dash. You have 4 lights. You place a light on each 10 yards. You run past the lights, you'll get 4 splits underneath each other to give your time on 10 yards, 20, 30, and 40 yards to see what your time is and how fast you are. All right. Let's go to a random. So we're going to go to basic, create new, random. You have to put in a name, choose random webinar. When you hit save, you come in the settings of your new random protocol. On top, you can add as many hits as you want to your exercise. That will tell you how many lights you have to deactivate before the exercise is done. The second option is the colors that you want to work with. You can choose all 6 by simply keep them selected, or you can deselect them and only use one color, whatever amount of colors you want. For example, you can, if somebody wants to do a go, no go, just red and green. Green means touch, red means don't touch, and you can just simply use those 2 colors. The sensor mode means impact, distance, or both. So how do you want to deactivate the lights? Do you want to deactivate the lights by impact? Do you want to deactivate the lights by distance, or both? Now, one can say that if you select both, that before you actually touch the light, you'll already deactivate it by distance. That is true if you actually will move your hand in front of the light. But if you set it to both and the proximity sensor is right in the middle, right here, if you do like this, it doesn't deactivate by distance, but it will still deactivate by impact. Also, if you set the impact to low, the vibration will already deactivate the light. So if you have a light on maybe a table or on a wall and you hit the table or the wall next to the light, the vibration will already deactivate the light. Okay, so you see here, you can choose the different settings for impact, distance. And if you choose both, you'll be able to set both sensors with the different settings. All right. The next option is LED mode. LED mode goes from normal to slow blink to flash and fast blink. Normal, the light will just go on. Slow blink, it will slowly blink. Flash, it will flash. And fast blink, it will fast blink. Be careful. If you're working with somebody that just had a concussion or a stroke, something that's flashy or blinking might be too much to look at. So you might want to just use the normal LED mode. A good way of using something that's blinking or flashing is if you want to use decoys, if you want to catch somebody off guard, because something that is flashy or blinking, you're automatically drawn to that. But it could be that you have to deactivate a different light. And we'll see at a later moment when you start programming your own exercises that might come in handy. There's also the light mode. As we saw in the beginning, you have each light has 2 rings of LEDs, the center, the outer ring, and if you put them both on, we call that a full light. Those could be 3 different levels of the same exercise, for example. A full light is easy to see, would be level number 1. Just the outer ring would be level number 2, and especially if you're training a peripheral vision, if you deactivate lights that are right here, if you just use the center, they'll be difficult to see, and that could be level 3. Now, you can also have the light give a beep when it's either armed, when you hit it, or when you miss it, when the timeout is over. Or if you don't want to beep, it's a bit harder because obviously if you hear a beep somewhere, automatically you know that you have to turn and deactivate the light right there. And if there's no beep, you constantly have to be turning to see what light will go on next. Now, we just said that you can set the beep to timeout, which means that if the timeout is over, it'll hear a beep. It will basically tell you that you missed it. And the timeout is the next option, which is the most important feature of the lights. The timeout will tell you how fast do you need to be. If you don't know how fast somebody is, just set it high, maybe to 9 or 10 seconds. And if somebody does an exercise for the first time, let's say a baseline test, and their average reaction time, for example, would be 1.4 seconds. Then next time you can set it to 1.4 seconds, and it will force the user to be faster half of the time because they were slower half of the time before, if that makes sense. So the timeout tells you how fast you need to be. The minute the light goes on, the timeout will tell you how long the light is on. The delay will give you the time in between lights. So I deactivate light number 1. How long does it take for light number 2 to go on? 2 examples. If I have lights in front of me on a wall, I probably don't want to set a delay because I don't want to wait in between deactivating lights because the lights are right there. So then you might want to set it all the way down to 0.05 seconds. Zero delay does not exist because it takes 0.05 seconds for the lights to send their information to your device. So 0.05 seconds, obviously that's less than a blink of an eye, so you won't even notice that. So if you don't want a delay, you put it to 0.05 seconds. But if you do want a delay, for example, if you have lights in front of you on a wall, but you have to run back to a certain point, when you're running back, you're not looking at the lights, and it's not really fair because when the light goes on and you don't see it, you can't deactivate it. So you might want to give yourself a little bit more time in between lights, and then you can set a delay. Also, it's a very good way of replicating a game situation where you do not know what is going to happen. Let's say I have 4 lights around me, so 1 in each corner. And whenever a light goes on, I deactivate it, then I go back to the middle, and I wait for the next light to go on. I'm constantly anticipating what light will go on next. If there's no beep, if there's a delay, I'm constantly turning to see what light will go on next, which one I have to deactivate. So that's a very good way to replicate that game situation. All right, the last option is penalty. Penalty will go from 1 to 10 seconds, and it will add those amount of seconds to the total time for every miss that you have. So let's say you put it to 2 seconds and you have 3 misses, it will add 6 seconds to the total time of your exercise. That's only important or only relevant if you start comparing total times. All right. Let's see. All right, now we're gonna create a new exercise, but more in depth. So we're gonna go to the right top where it says create new, and then we're gonna choose advanced. This is where it gets more interesting. Advanced is where you can program each individual light. Again, first you have to give it a name, as you see right here. And now what you see is just one horizontal line where it says step 1 with 1 circle with a plus. And below that, it says add new step. So everything that you program in advanced, when you run your program protocol, it will run from top to bottom. So whatever you program vertically will go on sequentially after each other. Everything that you program horizontally within the same step will go on at the same time. What does that look like? If you hit plus, automatically light number 1 will be selected. Light number 1 is the first light that you tapped when you connected the lights to your device. Light number 2 is the second light, number 3 is the third, etc., etc. So in this case, if I would leave it to this, light number 1 would go on with a blue color. And as you see, you can actually choose multicolor, so you can have a randomized color for one light. You can change it to yellow, to red, whatever you prefer. You can set all the settings, all the features that we just discussed in random. So the impact, the distance, the LED mode. Do you want normal? Do you want it to slowly blink, flash, etc., etc.? You can have it a full light. You can just have the outer ring. You can have the center. You can have it beep. All the settings that we just saw, you can create those for each individual light. All right. Again, everything you program horizontally will go on at the same time. So in this case, I'm programming fit light number 2 at the same time with fit light number one. So if I would run this, fit light number one would go on with a red color, and fit light number two will go on with a blue color. Now, as you maybe can see, let me see if I can get the laser pointer. Here, it says result, and that is a feature that we have not discussed yet. What you can choose with result is very important. There's 4 options: success, fail, required, and decoy. We just saw in random that you could choose, for example, a red and a green color. If you choose a go, no go with red and green, you would have to deactivate the green lights and you would not have to deactivate the red lights. In fact, you're not allowed to deactivate the red ones. If you would do that in a random, a red light that is being deactivated would still count as a hit, but that is something that you don't want. So here, what you can do is you can actually assign a result to a specific light. What does that mean? If I choose, like in this instance, required, it means that I have to deactivate that light. If I don't deactivate that light, the whole exercise will stop. All lights will blink red, and that's the end of your exercise. You cannot deactivate any more lights. If I choose success, if I deactivate that light, it will count as a hit. If I do not deactivate that light, it will count as a miss. If I choose fail, that would be the red light. It means that I cannot touch that light. If I do deactivate that light, all the lights will blink red. End of the workout, the time will stop. You have to do another workout. So you cannot deactivate a fail light. Again, required is that you have to deactivate it, and decoy does not do anything. It's just to catch you off guard. So again, if you choose decoy, and especially if you let it blink or flash, automatically somebody will be drawn to it, but joke's on them, they didn't have to deactivate it. So they have to stay focused, first think, and then act. Let's see if we can go further. Again, you can choose the different LED modes and the different light modes. You can have a beep or not. And then you can actually add a new step. Again, everything horizontally will go on at the same time. Everything vertically will go on after each other sequentially. So now I'm programming step number 2 with 2 lights. One is blue, one is green. The green is required. And if I would run this first, light number 1 and 2 will go on. Light number 2, if you guys remember correctly, I have to deactivate it because it's required. With a blue color, step 2 is going to be 1 and 2. 1 is not required, but 2 is required, and it has a green color. So first, light number 1 and 2 with red and blue will go on, and then light number 1 and 2 with blue and green will go on. If I hit save, it will ask me, do I want to add a description to this exercise, because it will save in my exercises. I just choose randomly step 1. It will automatically save in my exercises. If I go to my exercises, it will show the advanced workout that I just programmed. All right. Now let's see if we can program a Y drill. The Y drill is a very simple but very important agility drill where you run towards a certain point. There's going to be one fit light. We call that fit light number 1. And then if you pass that one light, you'll have one light in the far left corner and one light in the far right corner. So you always go to fit light number 1, you run past it, and it will trigger one of the other 2 lights, but it will always be random. So you never know which direction you have to change. That's very easily programmed, but it does show a lot that you can do with the fit light system. Again, we go to create new, we go to advanced, we give it a name. In this case, it's going to be the Y drill. We hit new step. Fit light number 1, because fit light number 1 is where you go to first. As you see, I set it to distance. 80 centimeters, which is the furthest away because I want to run past that light. Okay. Then I'm going to program step number 2, which is after step number 1. Step 2 will be light number 2 and light number 3. They'll both have distance 80 centimeters. There you go. Now, if I would run this, light number 1 will go on first. Once I deactivate that light, light number 2 and 3 will go on at the same time. You can't be in two places at the same time. So what do? We hit the 3 dots on the right side of step number 2, and it will ask me, do you want to duplicate this step? It would duplicate the step. Do you want to delete it? Or do you want to use the singular feature? If I select singular, it will ask me, do you only want to use 1 light from this step? In this case, I programmed 2 lights, but even if I would have programmed 20 lights, it will only choose 1 of those 20. So in this case, it will always randomize step number 2, where it would only choose 1 light. So this is also good if you want to do your own exercise, because you can't fool yourself. Fit light number 1 will always go on, and then either 1 or 2. And now you'll see step number 2, it has a red color and it has the word singular behind it. I hit save, I add a description. I call it Y-drill with singular. And there you go, it's in my exercises. Okay, what does that look like in real life? Again, this is Mike Podier from Pinnacle Sports Lab. He runs past 1 light, and he actually has 3 lights that he has to change direction to. Again, the first light goes on. He runs past it, and he has to deactivate the light that goes on next. All right, now we're going to program the go, no go that we discussed earlier. Again, we're going to go to create new on the right top. We're going to go to advanced. This is called go, no go. Just red and green. Red, don't touch. Green means touch or deactivate, if you will. We're going to create the first step, 4 lights. This is going to go a little bit faster now. We're adding a green, a red, a blue, and a yellow. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to set them to distance, all to distance. We're going to add the result. So what you saw just now is that I added the result required for the green light. Now we have light number 3, which is red, and I added the result fail. That means that if I do deactivate light number 3 with a red color, the whole exercise will stop because I'm not allowed to. And we discussed it before, light number 2 and 1 will be a decoy light, and just to catch somebody off guard. Light number 1 as well, and I'm going to make that flash. If I would run this, light number 1, 2, 3, and 4 will go on at the same time. If I deactivate or don't deactivate light number 1 and 2, it doesn't matter, doesn't do anything. If I deactivate light number 3, everything will stop. It's an error, it's a fail. If I deactivate light number 4, it would be a hit. Okay, I can also save that, give it a name. Obviously, I can program as many steps as I want. I can do 100 if I want, no problem whatsoever. All right. What does that look like in real life? Now, this is Dustin Poirier, very famous MMA fighter. We're very happy also training here with Nicholas Davenport, aka Mr. Mental Muscle, our brand ambassador. And what he does is he uses 2 lights in front of him. He has his arms on his legs, and whenever the light goes on, he has to deactivate it, or he has to deactivate them. They're going to be a red or a green color. And green means deactivate, red means don't deactivate. And at the speed that he does it, it is unbelievable, as you will see here. If you reach this level, then please contact me and I'll shoot a video of you as well, with courtesy of MindBody1. Thank you very much, Nick. All right, last but not least, and I see we're at 49 minutes. I know we've gone through this very fast, but that makes me happy. Then we can actually see if we have some time for a Q&A. So last but not least, I showed you that after each programmed exercise, it will pop up in My Exercises. And that is right here. If you select that, it will show you My Exercises. And if you press and hold one of those exercises, you can actually modify it. So you don't have to program everything again. You just press and hold the already programmed exercise. For example, if you get faster over time, you can just simply modify the timeout and leave everything the same as is. All right. Now, I see we're at 50 minutes. I've discussed a lot of the FitLight app. There is still more to discuss, especially when it comes to specific exercises that are preloaded, or maybe the split time test, or maybe more advanced in-depth programming with the advanced option. So if you guys get the questionnaire after this webinar, and if you want to have more information, first of all, feel free to email us, and the email address will be provided at the end of this webinar. Or if you have specific questions, please feel free to ask them in the questionnaire. And if you do, or if you are interested in another webinar, please feel free to tell us and we'll schedule another one. Okay, we also, at the end of this month, September 25th, have a seminar, which is in person in Miami, a whole day, by our very own neuroscientist, Luisa Nicola. Again, it's in Miami, September 25th. There are still some spots left. If you guys are interested, if you want to take the trip down to Miami, feel free to visit our website. It will be provided at the end of this webinar. And then all the options and how to sign up and how to get a hotel and things like that will all be on that page. All right. Again, thank you very much. My name is Rob Bouw. Please feel free to follow us on our social media. I myself also have a FitLight Instagram account, Rob FitLight, and I would love to see you guys over there.